So, students, today I'll read about the economy, the economy about the politics of the later Vedic period and about the early Vedic period. Okay, in the previous class we read about read up to the in the previous class we read up to Vedic civilization, that is Vedic literature, and about the Vedic age. Okay, what are the things found in Vedic age? Up to that we read, but in this video today I'll read about, in this class today I'll read about the Vedic village or Vedic rural community. That is, how was the village in the Rigvedic period? It was not only a rural settlement, but it was referred to as a small community or as a village. Okay, and that village or small community consists of few families, and that families consist of Jan, Gan, Bees, which is liberally called in the Rig Veda. Those who were taken to that community, that of people later formed into a village. Now Rigvedic community is referred to as many victories were happened in the Rigvedic time, and that victories were consequently plunders that occur, and cattle and horses were the most prized assets of such victories of war or of such plunder. So what I read, that in the Rigvedic period the village were rural community, not only rural community or a small community, but also that was an village or a larger community consist of many conglomeration of few families, and that families were termed as Jan, Gan, Bees. Okay, now now at that time we find that many victories were occur, many plundered were occur, and that victories or plundered in the time of Rigvedic period was mainly done by cattle and horses. Okay, now in the next stanza it is told that king of that time of Rigvedic period were termed as Raja, and Raja were called as leader. Then they were also termed, Raja or king were also called as Bhupati or Vishpoti, what we known as head of that community. Okay, now in the Rigvedic period we didn't find any ownership of people over ownership of king. ওকে, ঋগ্বেদিক টাইমে আমরা কিংয়ের রাজার কোনো ওনারশিপ আমরা পাই না। So they are not called as Narapati or Bhupati, but they are called as Vishpopati, that is the head of that community. Okay, as at that time Raja was the head of that small community or rural village, so he was called as Vishpoti, king or leader. Okay, but not Bhupati or Narapati, because Raja at that time was not ownership of land. Then an organization formed named Vidat, where Raja was the main head of that organization, and the name of the organization of the time of Rigvedic period was Vidat, and the king and the members of the other people were the form that Vidat. Okay, king and the members of the bees form that Vidat, that organization. King এর যে মেম্বাররা থাকতো তারাই অর্গানাইজেশনটা তৈরি করতো। দেন উই ডিসকাস অ্যাবাউট দ্য মিলিটারি অ্যাফেয়ার্স, যেটা হতো তাদের মধ্যে মিলিটারি যুদ্ধ হতো, সেই মিলিটারি যুদ্ধটাও বিদ্যাতের মধ্যেই হতো, অর্গানাইজেশনের মধ্যে থেকেই হতো, এবং কিং used to oversee that distribution. কিং সেই ডিস্ট্রিবিউশনটা খেয়াল রাখতো যে কারা মিলিটারি অ্যাফেয়ার্সে যোগদান করবে, কারা রেসপন্সিবল থাকবে। And after that, in the later Vedic period, what we find that king was transformed into a ruler. Okay, and when the king become transformed into a ruler, then king became the bhupati or mohapati. Bhupati means, bhu means land and poti ba moha means world. So at that time king became the ownership of the land in the time of later Vedic period. Okay, then king also became the master of the many subjects. So king is also received the title of Naropati. Later Vedic period আমরা কি দেখতে পাই যে কিং ওনারশিপ অফ ল্যান্ড হয়, সেই জন্য ভূপতি, তারপর সে অনেক সাবজেক্টস নিয়ে সে কালচার করতে পারে, সেই জন্য তাকে বলা হয় নরপতি। অ্যান্ড দ্যাট কিং ইজ অলসো কল্ড দ্য প্রোটেক্টর অফ দ্য পিপল। ওকে, now in that time the leader of that community became the monarch. King became the monarch and the people became his proja. People or the people became the proja, what we called king. কিংয়ের যে প্রজারা থাকে তাদেরকে আমরা প্রজা বলি কমিউনিটির, আর কিংকে আমরা বলে থাকি লিডার, কারণ সে মানুষদেরকে প্রোটেক্ট করে। In the later Vedic period, now like Brahmana literature, what we find that a war was occurred between the gods and the demons of the Brahmana religion. তাহলে ব্রাহ্মণা রিলিজিয়ানদের মধ্যে যেটা আমরা দেখতে পাই যে যারা ভগবান, যারা উপরে থাকে তাদের সাথে যারা নিচে থাকে ডেমনস, তাদের সাথে একটা যুদ্ধের সৃষ্টি হয় লেটার ভেদিক পিরিয়ডে। So now the area where the king used to rule, that area is called Rajyo or kingdom. Okay, and the people who wish to live in that regions or areas in the later Vedic period, that community were called as Kuru or Panchal. Okay, so these are the things what we find in the Vedic politics or community. Now in ancient times we also find another point is that in ancient times we also find king. That king was the main person who would win war and who would also become the king. Okay, now king may be an existing king, may be a father of the king, or the king may be select as community members of the king. Many a time we also find different sacrifices were also done with different yogos like অশ্বমেধ যজ্ঞ, রাজস্ব যজ্ঞ, বাজপেয়ী যজ্ঞ, এসব স্যাক্রিফাইসও অনেক সময় করা হতো। Certain sacrifices were performed before leaving for war. So king কী করতো না, যে কোনো যুদ্ধ করার আগে এই যজ্ঞগুলো বা স্যাক্রিফাইসগুলো তারা রিচুয়ালসগুলো করতো যে কোনো যুদ্ধে যাওয়ার আগে ইন অ্যানসিয়েন্ট টাইমসে। ঠিক আছে, সো and the person who assisted in that administration of king was known as officials or ratnin. Okay, so later we also find here Shobha and Somiti, okay, were formed. So up to this I read. Now in the next video I will talk about economy and society of the Vedic civilization.